The news spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The alien queen, a figure shrouded in mystery and power, had announced a challenge that no one had ever imagined before. Known for her beauty, intelligence, and strength, she had long been considered untouchable. Stories of her had traveled from one star system to another. Many said she had the wisdom of 1,000 civilizations and the courage to face the deadliest creatures in the universe. But now, she had made an announcement that made every being, both alien and human, stop in their tracks. She was seeking a partner, but not in the usual way. She had set a marriage challenge, a series of tests to determine who was worthy of being by her side. The announcement came at the Intergalactic Gathering, a grand event where beings from thousands of star systems came together to celebrate knowledge, technology, and culture. The gathering was held in a colossal arena that floated in space, glowing with thousands of lights that reflected off its metallic walls. Delegates from distant worlds moved gracefully through the halls, their colorful appearances and unusual shapes making the event look like a festival of diversity. Amid this, the alien queen arrived. Her presence was commanding, yet calm. She did not need to shout or threaten. The aura of her power alone made everyone fall silent. She floated above the crowd, her robes sparkling with the colors of distant nebulas, and her eyes, deep and knowing, scanned the audience. When she spoke, her voice was clear and melodious, yet carried authority that echoed across the arena. She announced that she would hold a series of challenges to find a partner who could stand beside her. The challenges were designed to test courage, intelligence, and empathy, the qualities she valued above all else. The crowd was stunned. Beings from the farthest planets whispered to each other, some in excitement, some in disbelief. Humans, known for their fragility and limited technology compared to the aliens, were laughed at quietly. Many assumed no human would dare participate, and even if they did, survival seemed impossible. Among the crowd was one human, a woman of average appearance, not taller than most humans, with no special powers or alien technology to aid her. Her name was Lila. She had traveled to the gathering because she was curious, because she believed in exploring the unknown. When she heard the Queen's announcement, a strange feeling washed over her, a mixture of fear, excitement, and determination. Unlike the aliens who immediately began strategizing and showing off their powers, Lila did not panic or act rashly. She listened carefully, studied the rules, and allowed herself to think clearly. The first reactions of the other competitors ranged from shock to amusement. Some of the aliens openly mocked the idea of a human taking part in the challenge. They were certain that the tests were impossible for anyone from Earth. "She will never make it through the first trial," one of them whispered, his voice full of disdain. "Humans are weak. They do not belong here." But Lila did not react to the ridicule. Instead, she observed everything around her. She noticed how some competitors underestimated small details, assuming their power alone would guarantee victory. She realized that if she wanted to succeed, she could not rely on strength or technology. She would need patience, intelligence, and heart. As the day of the challenge approached, excitement and tension filled the air. Contestants prepared in their own ways. Some used alien machines, others practiced combat moves, while a few studied maps and histories of the Queen's past challenges. Lila, however, prepared differently. She read everything she could find about the Queen's previous trials, studied the creatures that were part of the challenges, and thought about how she could use her mind and emotions rather than muscle. She meditated to calm herself, imagining the challenges and visualizing herself facing them with courage. Unlike the others, she did not show off or boast. Her preparation was quiet, careful, and deliberate. Lila also noticed small details in the arena that others ignored. She saw cracks in the walls, patterns in the lighting, and subtle shifts in the Queen's expression when she addressed the crowd. These small observations gave her confidence. She realized that while she was a human, she had abilities that the aliens often overlooked. She could pay attention to details, adapt quickly, and remain calm under pressure. These would be her greatest tools in the coming trials. The day before. The first challenge, tension in the arena, was almost unbearable. Aliens flaunted their powers, demonstrating strength, speed, and intelligence. The audience was dazzled, and many humans watching from Earth or nearby colonies began to doubt Lila's chances. But Lila did not allow fear to creep in. She understood that courage did not mean the absence of fear. It meant moving forward despite it. She reminded herself that she had her own strengths, and she trusted that her careful planning and calm observation would help her navigate the challenges. Finally, the moment came. The alien queen herself appeared to give the final instructions. Her eyes lingered on each contestant, assessing their readiness, their attitude, and perhaps even their heart. When she reached Lila, there was a pause. The queen's expression did not change. But Lila felt a strange connection, as if the queen recognized her courage even before the challenge began. The arena was silent, every eye focused on the human who dared to compete against some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Whispers spread like wildfire. A human? Really? Is she brave or foolish? And yet, Lila remained steady. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that the challenge was not just about winning, it was about testing herself, learning, and showing respect for the process. She had no illusions about how difficult it would be, but she also knew that every step forward, every careful observation, and every choice she made would matter. As the first challenge drew near, the audience could feel the tension rise. Aliens sharpened their claws, activated their technology, and prepared mentally. Lila, in contrast, quietly observed the arena, noting traps, movements, and patterns. She smiled softly, not out of arrogance, but because she understood that sometimes the greatest advantage was clarity of mind. In that moment, the arena became a place of anticipation, not just for the physical challenge, but for the story that was about to unfold. No one knew what would happen, and that uncertainty made everyone lean forward in suspense. Among all the spectators, one truth became clear. The human was not just participating. She was already different, already intriguing, and perhaps already changing the way everyone thought about courage, intelligence, and possibility. After the announcement of the alien queen's marriage challenge, the atmosphere in the arena became electric with tension. Contestants from dozens of star systems began to prepare for the trials in their own ways. Aliens with multiple limbs practiced combat maneuvers, while others activated strange glowing devices that hummed with energy. Some competitors spent hours studying holographic maps of the arena, trying to anticipate traps and puzzles. Every movement, every sound seemed amplified as the participants focused entirely on the trials ahead. Lila, the human, watched quietly from a distance. Unlike the aliens, she did not have advanced technology, incredible strength, or any other supernatural advantage. But she had something they often underestimated: her mind, her attention to detail, and her empathy. She knew that rushing into the challenge recklessly would be a mistake. So, instead of training in combat or relying on machines, she spent her time observing and analyzing. She began by studying the arena itself. The enormous structure floated silently in space, with towering walls, twisting pathways, and strange glowing patterns on the floor that seemed to shift when no one was looking. Many competitors ignored these subtle details, assuming their strength or intelligence would be enough to carry them through. But Lila noticed them. She spent hours walking the perimeter, observing light reflections, listening to the faint hum of machinery, and even watching how some of the smaller creatures in the arena reacted to changes in the environment. Every observation, no matter how small, was stored carefully in her mind. Next, she focused on understanding the nature of the trials. The alien queen had mentioned 3 areas: courage, intelligence, and empathy. Lila reflected on what each test might involve. Courage, she realized, was not just about fighting monsters or running through danger. It was about facing fear and uncertainty with steady resolve. Intelligence would likely involve more than solving puzzles. She would need to think creatively, adapt quickly, and perhaps find patterns others might overlook. Empathy, the queen had said, would test the heart, how well a contestant could understand and care for others, even beings very different from themselves. Lila also paid attention to her competitors. Many of the aliens were confident, almost arrogantly so. They assumed that their strength, speed, or advanced technology would guarantee their victory. Some even mocked her quietly, whispering comments that humans were weak, fragile, and unworthy of competing. But Lila did not respond with anger or fear. Instead, she studied their behavior. She noticed who was overconfident, who was impulsive, and who might underestimate the value of careful observation. These insights would prove useful when facing the trials. She also formed subtle connections with a few other underdogs, including small alien creatures that were often ignored by the larger competitors. These allies were not strong, but they were observant and clever. Together, they exchanged quiet tips and insights, sharing knowledge about the terrain and potential traps. Lila realized that even small acts of collaboration could create a significant advantage. While the powerful aliens relied on themselves, she was learning to rely on both her mind and the support of others. Part of her preparation also involved mental and emotional training. She knew that panic or fear could cloud judgment in high-stress situations. So she practiced mindfulness, breathing exercises, and visualization techniques. Every day, she would close her eyes and imagine facing the challenges, moving carefully through dangerous terrain, solving complex puzzles, and helping creatures in distress. By imagining these scenarios in detail, she trained herself to stay calm and think clearly, even under pressure. She also researched everything she could about the alien queen herself. Stories told that the queen had survived countless dangers, outwitted rivals, and judged hundreds of contestants across the galaxy. Lila studied past accounts, noting how the queen valued creativity, patience, and kindness as much as intelligence and strength. By understanding what the queen admired, Lila hoped to align her approach with the qualities that would be recognized and rewarded. Even as she prepared, Lila remained humble. She did not boast or seek attention. Instead, she focused quietly on her goals, step by step, understanding that preparation was about consistency, not speed. She learned from small failures during her practice runs, correcting mistakes and refining strategies. Unlike some competitors who relied solely on brute force or flashy displays, she built her confidence slowly, brick by brick, knowing that careful, steady work often outperformed impulsive effort. One day, while observing the arena, Lila discovered a pattern in the movement of the floating platforms and traps. The aliens around her had overlooked this subtle rhythm, assuming it was random. But by noting small repetitions, she realized she could anticipate the timing and navigate the terrain more safely. It was a breakthrough that gave her confidence and reinforced the importance of careful observation. Lila also spent time reflecting on the concept of empathy. She realized that this trial would require her to understand beings who communicated differently, looked different, and had needs she might not immediately recognize. She practiced by observing creatures around the arena, noting subtle expressions, behaviors, and signals. She learned to approach with patience, to listen without judgment, and to respond with genuine care. By the time the trials began, she felt not only prepared, but also more connected to the world around her, able to perceive things that others might miss in their focus on power or speed. As the day of the first challenge approached, tension in the arena reached a peak. Aliens flaunted their abilities, demonstrating strength, speed, and intellect. The audience gasped and murmured with excitement and anticipation. Some humans watching from nearby planets worried about Lila, thinking she might not survive even the first trial. But Lila remained calm, her mind focused, and her heart steady. She understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward despite it. On the night before the trials, she sat quietly under the artificial stars of the floating arena, reflecting on her journey. She thought about how far she had come, not just in preparation but in understanding herself and the challenges ahead. She knew that the trials would be difficult, unpredictable, and dangerous. But she also knew that her preparation, careful, observation, mental training, empathy, and humility had given her tools that even the strongest competitors might lack. When dawn arrived and the first trial was about to begin, Lila felt ready. Not because she had the power of advanced aliens or sophisticated technology, but because she had trained her mind, heart, and spirit. She had prepared in a way that was uniquely human, turning her perceived weaknesses into strengths. She walked forward with quiet confidence, aware that every step, every decision, and every act of observation could make the difference between success and failure. Even the other competitors noticed her calm composure, contrasting sharply with their own nerves and flashy displays. Whispers spread through the crowd again, this time tinged with curiosity. Who is she? How can a human possibly succeed? Lila did not answer them, but her calmness spoke louder than words. In that moment, she was no longer just a participant. She was someone who had captured the attention of the galaxy, not through power, but through preparation, patience, and insight. And so the stage was set. The challenges lay ahead, full of danger, complexity, and mystery. The aliens relied on their strength, their gadgets, and their confidence. Lila relied on her mind, her heart, and her courage. The difference was subtle but powerful. And it would soon become clear that sometimes being human could be the greatest advantage of all. The day of the trials finally arrived, and the arena was buzzing with anticipation. Contestants from across the galaxy had gathered, their colorful forms and powerful auras making the arena feel like a universe of energy in motion. Spectators, both alien and human, filled the stands, their eyes fixed on the competitors. Whispers and murmurs ran through the crowd as everyone wondered who would survive the Queen's formidable challenges. Lila, the human, stood quietly at the starting line, her heart steady but her mind alert. She had prepared for this moment for weeks, studying every detail, practicing mental exercises, and observing the behaviors of other competitors. She knew that her success would depend not on strength alone, but on focus, intelligence, and empathy. The first trial was announced, a test of courage. Contestants were required to cross a treacherous terrain filled with shifting platforms, hidden traps, and dangerous creatures that had never been seen before. The moment the gates opened, aliens surged forward, some leaping with grace, others relying on their strength to break through obstacles. Many laughed at Lila quietly as she stepped carefully into the arena. A human? She won't even make it past the first pit, one of the competitors snickered. Lila did not respond. She had learned long ago that arrogance was dangerous, and patience was her ally. She moved cautiously, observing each platform, every shadow, and every movement of the creatures lurking in the area. Unlike the aliens, who often rushed with power and overconfidence, she relied on careful calculation. She noticed subtle cues, a branch that trembled before a trap snapped, a flicker of light indicating a hidden platform, or a creature's gaze that revealed its path. Using these observations, she navigated the terrain slowly but safely. While it took longer than some of the other competitors, she avoided injury and moved steadily toward the finish line. By the end of the first trial, many aliens had fallen into traps or been forced to retreat. Some were bruised, shaken, or exhausted, while Lila had completed the challenge with surprising composure. The spectators began to murmur in astonishment. Whispers spread. "Did you see that human? She's succeeding." The arena, once full of doubt about her abilities, now held a sense of cautious admiration. Even the Queen watched with interest, her piercing eyes studying Lila's methodical approach. The second trial tested intelligence. Contestants were presented with a series of puzzles, riddles, and logical challenges, each more complex than the last. Holographic displays projected shifting patterns and coded messages that would confuse even the most advanced minds. Many competitors, relying on brute force or speed, struggled to make sense of the problems. They grew frustrated and anxious, some even giving up before completing the tasks. Lila, however, remained calm. She read each puzzle carefully, breaking it down into smaller parts and analyzing patterns that others had overlooked. Where aliens tried to force solutions through power or assumptions, she used logic, observation, and creativity. She discovered shortcuts hidden within the designs and solved riddles by thinking from angles no one else considered. As she moved from one puzzle to another, her confidence grew. She realized that intelligence was not just about solving problems quickly. It was about patience, focus, and understanding the underlying principles. Each success in this trial boosted her determination, and the spectators began to notice that she was not only surviving the challenges, but excelling in ways no one expected. Finally, the third trial arrived: empathy. This trial would test the contestants' ability to connect with, understand, and care for creatures from unfamiliar worlds. Each participant was presented with a being in distress, and they had to help it without using force or coercion. Many aliens struggled immediately. They did not understand the creature's needs, acted impatiently, or attempted to control the situation with their power. Some creatures reacted with fear, rejection, or aggression. Lila, on the other hand, approached with quiet patience. She observed the creature carefully, noting its gestures, sounds, and expressions. She allowed it to trust her, offering calm reassurance instead of commands. Slowly, the creature responded, moving closer and accepting her help. Lila understood that empathy was about connection and respect, not about dominance. She guided the being to safety, communicated through gestures and tone, and ensured its comfort. The Queen, watching from above, leaned forward slightly, clearly impressed. The other competitors had relied on strength, intellect, or flashy displays, but Lila had used something far more subtle and powerful: genuine care and understanding. As the 3 trials concluded, it became evident that Lila had completed all of them successfully. Other contestants had excelled in 1 or 2 trials, but none had mastered all 3. Some were injured, some frustrated, and some humbled by the experience. The arena buzzed with astonishment. Spectators whispered, their disbelief slowly turning into admiration. The human who had been underestimated and doubted had not only survived but demonstrated remarkable courage, intelligence, and empathy. The Queen herself moved to the center of the arena, her presence commanding silence. The crowd waited in suspense as she prepared to announce the results. Lila stood quietly, her expression calm but focused. She had not competed for recognition or applause. She had approached the trials as she always did, with preparation, observation, and respect. Yet now, standing at the center of the arena, she realized that her approach had not only allowed her to succeed, but had also shifted the perceptions of those around her. The other competitors looked at her with a mixture of shock and disbelief. Some could not accept that a human, a species they had long considered weak and fragile, had outperformed them in every trial. Their confidence had faltered, replaced by questions and uncertainty. Lila, however, remained composed. She did not gloat or boast. She had learned from her preparation that humility, focus, and empathy were as important as strength and intelligence. Her calmness in the face of admiration made her victory even more striking. Even the creatures involved in the trials seemed to recognize her sincerity. The being she had helped in the empathy trial stayed near her, following her quietly as if acknowledging her success. It was a small gesture, but it reflected the bond she had formed and the trust she had earned. In a challenge designed to test heart as well as skill, Lila had demonstrated a depth of understanding that set her apart. By the end of the day, the arena was filled with a sense of awe. Lila's performance had changed the mood completely. What had started as a display of alien strength and skill had transformed into a demonstration of courage, intelligence, and empathy that transcended species. The human had proven that the qualities the Queen valued most were not limited to advanced aliens or powerful beings. When the Queen finally spoke, she praised all contestants for their efforts, but singled out Lila for her exceptional performance. This human has completed all trials with courage, intelligence, and a heart that truly understands others, the Queen announced. She has demonstrated the qualities I value most, and she has earned recognition for her achievement. The crowd erupted in murmurs and whispers of astonishment. Lila had not just survived, she had excelled in every aspect of the challenge. The day ended with a mixture of celebration and reflection. Competitors were humbled, spectators were amazed, and Lila felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. She had faced the most difficult challenges of her life and had emerged successfully, not by force or power, but by relying on the skills she had cultivated through careful preparation, observation, and empathy. As the sun, or what passed for, a sun in the floating arena, set over the intergalactic gathering, Lila realized that the trials had changed her. She had not only proven her abilities to the Queen and the spectators, but had also discovered the true power of patience, focus, and understanding. The challenges ahead were far from over, but she was ready to face them, step by step, with courage and a steady heart. The arena was silent. The trials had ended, and every being present was waiting with bated breath. Aliens, creatures, and humans alike leaned forward, eager for the announcement. Lila stood quietly, her posture calm, her eyes steady. She had faced challenges that tested every part of her being, courage, intelligence, and empathy, and now the moment had come to see if all her preparation had paid off. The other competitors shifted nervously, some glaring, some frowning, unable to believe that a human had even made it through all 3 trials. The alien queen floated gracefully to the center of the arena. Her robes shimmered with the colors of distant galaxies, and her eyes, deep and commanding, scanned the audience. The crowd fell into a hush, hanging on her every movement. The Queen's presence was powerful, almost overwhelming, and yet she spoke with a calm, deliberate voice. "All contestants have completed the challenges," she began. "Many have shown strength, speed, and intelligence. Some have faltered. One, however, has succeeded in all trials, demonstrating courage, insight, and a heart that truly understands. Others," murmurs swept through the crowd. "A human? Could it be?" Many aliens refused to believe it. They whispered among themselves, exchanging glances of disbelief. But the Queen's voice silenced all speculation. She continued, "This human has shown qualities that are often overlooked but are the truest measure of worth. She has completed the challenges without relying on strength alone, without gadgets or tricks, but through careful observation, empathy, and courage." The audience erupted in astonishment. Whispers turned into gasps, and even some of the most confident competitors were stunned into silence. Lila had not only survived but excelled, showing every quality the Queen valued most: Some aliens tried to protest quietly, claiming that a human could not possibly deserve the Queen's recognition. Others were too shocked to speak. The arena, once filled with arrogance and confidence, was now filled with awe and disbelief. Lila's reaction surprised everyone even more than her success. She did not jump in excitement, nor did she boast. Instead, she bowed respectfully to the Queen and nodded toward her fellow competitors. "Thank you," she said simply, her voice calm and sincere. "I admire the courage and skill of all who took part. I could not have completed these trials without observing and learning from each of you." Her words were not empty. They reflected her genuine respect for others and her humility. The Queen studied her carefully. A subtle smile appeared on her face, though her eyes remained as piercing as ever. "You have understood more than just the trials," the Queen said. "You have understood yourself, and you have shown the qualities that define true worth. Courage, intelligence, empathy. These are not measured by power alone. They are measured by the choices one makes, by the heart that guides them." The other competitors looked at Lila with a mixture of respect and disbelief. Some approached her cautiously, offering nods of acknowledgement, while others stood frozen, unable to reconcile their assumptions about humans with the reality before them. The whispers turned into conversations about humility, strategy, and insight. Many aliens realized they had underestimated the power of careful observation, patience, and genuine empathy, qualities they had often dismissed as weakness. Even the creatures involved in the empathy trial lingered near Lila, drawn to her calm presence and sincerity. They had sensed her kindness and trustworthiness, responding not out of fear but with a quiet connection. In the midst of the crowd, Lila's success was not measured by trophies or medals, but by the respect and recognition she had earned from those who had once doubted her. The Queen's reaction had shocked the galaxy, not because she was angry or disappointed, but because she had recognized the human's quiet strength and humility. Many had expected her to favor an alien competitor, someone stronger, faster, or more technologically advanced. Instead, she had chosen to honor a being who relied on heart and intellect, proving that true value is often hidden in unexpected places. By the end of the day, the arena had transformed. What began as a display of raw power and competition had become a lesson in humility, insight, and respect. Lila had changed perceptions not through arrogance or force, but through quiet courage, intelligence, and empathy. She had become an example to all who watched, showing that the qualities of the heart and mind could overcome assumptions, prejudice, and fear. Life after the challenge was unlike anything Lila had imagined. Stories of her courage, intelligence, and empathy spread across the galaxy, reaching distant planets and space stations. Humans, once considered fragile and unworthy of intergalactic recognition, were now seen in a new light. Lila's victory had not only proven her own abilities, but had changed perceptions of her entire species. She became a symbol of what could be achieved through careful preparation, focus, and kindness. Yet, Lila remained humble. Despite the celebrations, interviews, and admiration, she did not let fame or recognition change who she was. She continued to observe, learn, and reflect, understanding that the trials had been a lesson, not just a test. Her journey had taught her that courage was not the absence of fear, intelligence was not measured by speed alone, and empathy could connect beings in ways that power never could. She shared her experiences quietly with others, hoping to inspire them not through grand speeches, but through example. The alien queen, impressed by Lila's character, sought her out personally. The two spent time together, discussing not only the trials, but the philosophies of different civilizations, the challenges of leadership, and the importance of understanding diverse perspectives. Their conversations were deep and meaningful, forming a bond built on mutual respect. The queen, who had long been seen as distant and untouchable, revealed a side of herself that few had ever known, a side that appreciated sincerity, insight, and compassion. Humans began to participate in intergalactic events more confidently. Inspired by Lila's example, many young humans set out to explore, learn, and compete in challenges once thought impossible for their species. Lila's success demonstrated that preparation, observation, and empathy could level the playing field, allowing beings of all kinds to thrive in environments previously considered too dangerous or complex. Lila's victory also encouraged a shift among the alien competitors. Those who had dismissed her abilities began to reevaluate their own approaches. Some realized that arrogance and reliance on brute strength or advanced technology were not enough. They observed the careful, patient strategies Lila had used, recognizing that intelligence and empathy could achieve outcomes that sheer power could not. In this way, Lila's success became more than personal. It influenced the behavior, attitudes, and strategies of countless beings across the galaxy. Despite her fame, Lila maintained a simple life. She continued to explore, learn, and observe. She did not seek leadership or power, but focused on understanding the universe and its inhabitants. Yet wherever she went, beings of all kinds greeted her with respect, recalling the story of the human who had won the alien queen's challenge. She was celebrated not for defeating others, but for showing what it meant to face challenges with courage, intelligence, and a genuine heart. Over time, Lila and the alien queen's partnership grew into a unique friendship. They learned from each other, sharing knowledge, experiences, and wisdom. Together, they showed that collaboration and understanding between different species could achieve far more than competition and conflict. Lila's presence became a bridge between humans and advanced alien civilizations, proving that respect and empathy could unite beings across even the most extreme differences. As the years passed, Lila often reflected on her journey. She remembered the doubts, the whispers, and the fear she had felt before the trials. She remembered the careful observations, the preparation, and the moments of quiet patience that had guided her to success. She realized that the true victory was not only winning the challenge, but transforming perceptions, fostering understanding, and proving that qualities of the heart and mind could triumph over assumptions and prejudice. Her story became a legend, shared from planet to planet, inspiring generations of humans and aliens alike. It was a story of courage and intellect, yes, but also of humility, empathy, and the quiet strength that comes from preparation and patience. Lila had shown that even an ordinary human, armed only with careful thought, observation, and a kind heart, could achieve extraordinary things. In the end, Lila's greatest achievement was not the title or recognition she received, but the lasting impact she had on the galaxy. She had proven that being human was not a limitation, but a unique strength. She had inspired others to challenge assumptions, to approach obstacles with patience and empathy, and to recognize that true courage and intelligence are measured by how one faces challenges and treats others along the way. And as she looked out over the stars, Lila knew that her journey had only just begun. There were still mysteries to explore, beings to understand, and challenges to face. But now she faced them with the quiet confidence of someone who had learned that courage, intelligence, and empathy could light the path through even the most unimaginable trials.